White Revolution, or the Shah and People's Revolution, is indeed the name of a series of economic and social changes comprising the 6 principles initiated during the reign of Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi in Iran. With the support of the then Prime Ministers of Iran, Ali Amini, Asadollah Alam, Hassan Ali Mansour, and Amir Abbas Hoveyda, these transformations were realized. The period marked a significant shift in Iran's economic and social landscape. In the initial phase, Shah proposed a set of 6 principles during the National Farmers' Congress in Tehran on January 11, 1963, presenting the reforms in a referendum for acceptance or rejection to farmers and the general public, with positive results in a nationwide poll on January 26, 1963. The Shah termed these reforms the White Revolution, emphasizing its peaceful and bloodless nature. Before land reforms in Iran, 50% of agricultural land was in the hands of large landowners, 20% belonged to endowments, 10% was government-owned, and 20% was held by farmers. Prior to land reforms, at Mohammad Reza Pahlavi's order, 18,000 villages were listed for land distribution among villagers. Mohammad Reza Pahlavi spoke about the necessity of land reforms in Iran for many years, but he was compelled to backtrack in the face of pressure from large landowners and clergy. On January 9, 1962, corresponding to 19-day 1340, Amini's cabinet approved Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi's decree to dismantle the feudal system in Iran. Amini went to Qom to convince the clergy, including Khomeini, about these reforms. Khomeini criticizes Amini's premiership, labeling his policies as entirely wrong for the country, particularly condemning the educational system in primary and secondary schools as producing only infidels. Following Khomeini's remarks, Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi retorts, "Now you have taken off your mask. These black reactionaries are worse than the red reactionaries." On July 19, 1962, Amini resigns, and Asadollah Alam is appointed as the new Prime Minister. Mohammad Reza Shah told his new Prime Minister, Asadollah Alam, that these reforms can only be implemented when the majority of the people are in favor. Therefore, a referendum can pave the way for agrarian reforms. On January 9, 1963, Shah inaugurates the National Farmers' Congress, attended by 4,200 representatives of cooperatives and farmers. Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi speaks about the 6 principles of reforms, submitting them for public approval, leading to jubilation among the Congress attendees. He says, "No deed will be more pleasing to God than the actions we are undertaking today, including liberating the unfortunate subjects of Iran from the chains of slavery and granting ownership to 15 million people in this country in the land where they work. Nothing is more divine than social justice and the elimination of oppression." The clergy, due to their vast endowment lands, were among the major opponents of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi's reforms. They staunchly opposed the land reforms, arguing in their sermons that with these agricultural reforms, farmers would not have the capital and capability to manage their lands, ultimately leading to selling them to former landlords. As a result, they criticized and resisted the implementation of this program. On January 26, 1963, a referendum was held in Iran to confirm the proposed reforms. A total of 5,598,711 individuals voted in favor of the White Revolution, while 521,108 opposed it, casting their ballots. For the first time in Iranian history, women also participated in the voting process. In Tehran, 16,433 votes were cast, and in other provinces, 300,000 people expressed their approval. The land reforms unfolded in 3 stages. In the initial phase, it was determined that no landowner could possess more than 10 hectares of surplus land, which had to be sold to the farmers cultivating it. Simultaneously, through the sale of shares in state-owned factories, funds were arranged for the reimbursement of landowners. In the second stage, landlords with leased lands were required either to share the income from rent or, based on lease agreements, sell the lands to farmers. In essence, property owners were mandated to either lease their agricultural property to farmers for 30 years or sell it through mutual agreement. This significantly restricted the maximum ownership of lands by a single proprietor. Public endowment properties were also leased to farmers on a long-term basis of 99 years, based on the income generated from those lands. Special endowments were obligated to be sold to the government, with the proceeds distributed among the farmers. In the third stage, property owners who had leased their properties were compelled by the laws of reform to sell them to farmers, and with the consent of both the owner and the farmer, distribution occurred according to the customary share of the landowners. Consequently, many Iranian farmers became landowners, and according to Mohammad Reza Pahlavi's assertion, Iran transitioned from a feudal and backward country to one with free and industrial agriculture. Land reforms had 19 objectives and principles. The first principle aimed at land reforms and the abolition of the landlord-tenant system, nationalizing forests and pastures, selling shares of government-owned factories as a support for land reforms, involving workers in the profits of factories, amending Iran's election laws to grant voting rights to women and equal political rights with men, establishing the Sepah-e-Danesh, Knowledge Corps, establishing the Sepah-e-Behdasht, Health Corps, establishing the Sepah-e-Tarvij va Abadani, Development and Prosperity Corps, establishing houses of justice and arbitration councils, nationalizing the waters of the country, selling shares to workers in large industrial units or expanding the ownership of production units, combating inflation, profiteering, and defending consumer rights, free and compulsory education, free nutrition for preschool children in schools, and free nutrition for infants up to 2 years old with their mothers, social insurance coverage for all Iranians, combating speculative land transactions and non-mobile property, combating corruption, bribery, and bribery-taking. Opposition from the clergy. Some clergy believed that the White Revolution plans contradicted the foundations of Islamic law. The most notable opposing cleric was Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, who deemed the referendum illegitimate and imposed a religious ban on it. While the Shah granted voting rights to women, Khomeini objected to it on December 30, 1962, through a letter to the Shah, considering it contrary to Quranic principles and Islam. Protests and objections from some clergy, especially the speeches of Ruhollah Khomeini, led to street clashes in some cities, particularly in Mashhad and Qom. Commemorative stamps of the Shah and People's Revolution